So there's a saying that if you don't want it to follow you home, you need to trick it. But how? So my uncle and I went fishing on a fishing trip by ourselves. I was 22 and my uncle was 33. We gassed up and left during the evening and planned to stay a little bit later. As it got later, the fish stopped biting, so we decided to call it a night and drive home. My uncle was driving and I was on the passenger side. We were still an hour away from home when we stumbled upon a woman walking alone at night. As we were passing her, my uncle stopped the car and pulled back to ask if the lady needed a ride home. I was skeptical at first until I saw how pretty she was, roughly 25 years old. My uncle then gave me the keys with excitement and told me to drive while he sat in the back with her. I, on the other hand, said I was too young to be driving us home and for my uncle to drive. He threw the keys at me and commanded me to drive. Guess I have no choice. As I was driving, I was a little upset as my uncle was having all the fun in the back and I had to focus on getting us home safely. My uncle was known to be a flirt and a player back in his high school days, and he was blessed with good looks and height. As I was driving, I can't help but to take a quick glimpse at the rearview mirror to see what they were up to. I saw something sitting next to my uncle that didn't look human. I thought I must be seeing things, and I was pretty tired at this point. I blinked a couple times and I rubbed my eyes, and I looked again, but this time I put more focus into the mirror. Her skin was so pale, and her jaw was dropping, and her eyeballs were popping, and she looked as if she was rotting. I started to shake and my face started to turn red. Luckily, she didn't notice me. She was looking towards the direction of my uncle as my uncle was talking with her. I was freaking out. I didn't know what to do. I began sweating and breathing harder. My uncle asked me if I was getting tired and if I wanted to switch. By this time, it has been 30 minutes since we picked her up. There was no way I was going to sit in the back with it. So I told my uncle I was fine. I felt bad for leaving my uncle in the ditch like that. We had a key word that we used to indicate danger since we both like to go fishing a lot and in case something happens. I always thought it was dumb as I can always just tell him to run or something. Or maybe it was for situations like this. I want to tell my uncle so bad, but I don't know how. Plus, for sure, he would freak out. And who knows what it would do. There were always a lot of stories about not picking up girls at night walking because you may pick up something that you didn't mean to and may follow you home. Surely I didn't want this thing to follow us home, and I realized that there was a gas station coming up. I told him I needed to use the restroom and gas up. My uncle told me that surely not need to gas up as we already gassed up before we came. My body was turning so hot, I didn't know how to respond to his comment. I just wanted him to be quiet at this point. I told him that I just needed to use the restroom, but then in a very sarcastic way. As we pulled up to the gas station, I loudly said, "We're home," with excitement. I got out of the car and before my uncle could make any other comments, I opened his door and pulled him out and dragged him out into the store with my arms around his back. She asked if she can come too. With my voice shaking, I said, "Of course." She got out of the car and followed us inside the store. I told her she can roam around and get whatever she wants while we go use the restroom together. I pulled my uncle into the restroom with me and he told me he don't swing that way. I told him to be quiet and just follow my lead. We got out of the restroom and we quickly, quietly, and luckily snuck out. I got back into the car and sped off as fast as I could. My uncle asked me why are we leaving her. I reached over with one of my hands to cover his mouth with seriousness written all over my face. He agreed to just sit still until we got home. I didn't even speak about it that night. The next day, I had told him what had happened and what I saw. My uncle apologized for his action and is thankful for my fast thinking and what I did. He also told me why he invented that code and why didn't I use it. I wanted to laugh, but simply I told him I had forgotten about that. We never went fishing again at that same spot.